If you're tired of surface-level history and want the truth behind the front lines, subscribe now. Today, we're breaking open a forgotten piece of the past. Because this story isn't about hero worship or miracle weapons. It's about what happens when doctrine fails, leadership hesitates, and one man understands the battlefield better than everyone else around him. In January 1943 on Guadalcanal, American forces were being bled dry by Japanese snipers who seemed untouchable. The jungle swallowed sound, movement and men, and the Army's standard equipment had no answer. Until a lieutenant with a so-called toy rifle stepped forward. The lessons learned from the battlefields of Guadalcanal still echo in the training rooms and manuals of today's military. For anyone studying counter-sniper tactics, understanding the mindset and discipline of those early Marine snipers is essential. Their approach wasn't just about marksmanship, it was about patience, observation, and a deep respect for the dangers of the jungle. These principles remain at the heart of modern sniper doctrine, shaping how soldiers prepare for the invisible war between hunter and hunted. You don't defeat snipers with overwhelming firepower or by spraying bullets into the trees. In fact, firing blindly only reveals your own position and wastes precious ammunition. The key is restraint. Knowing when not to shoot is just as important as knowing when to pull the trigger. You defeat them with careful observation, precise timing, and unwavering discipline. Every movement is calculated, every shot deliberate. The jungle is a chessboard, and the best snipers are always thinking several moves ahead, anticipating the enemy's next step. Patience became the most powerful weapon. For hours, sometimes even days, snipers would remain motionless, blending into the landscape, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This patience slowly unraveled the enemy's confidence, making them second-guess every step they took. By noon, 5 enemy snipers had been eliminated. George, the Marine sniper, didn't relocate unnecessarily. He understood that every movement could give away his position, so he stayed put, trusting his camouflage and his nerves. He knew that panic leads to mistakes, and mistakes in the jungle meant death. Calm under pressure, he kept his breathing steady and his hands still, never allowing fear to dictate his actions. As the day wore on, Japanese snipers stopped moving during daylight. Their silence spoke volumes. George realized that his patience had forced them into hiding, paralyzing their network and making them vulnerable. He wasn't just eliminating individuals, he was systematically dismantling the enemy's ability to operate as a coordinated force. Each shot sent a message, sowing fear and confusion among the Japanese ranks. The psychological impact was profound. Enemy soldiers hesitated to move, whispering nervously and glancing over their shoulders. Their confidence was shattered, and their effectiveness as a fighting unit diminished with every passing hour. On the second day, the enemy tried a new tactic: mortar fire. Explosions ripped through the jungle, forcing George to make a split-second decision. He relocated immediately, crawling low and fast through the undergrowth. He knew that survival depended on mobility after an engagement, and he never hesitated when it was time to move. From behind a fallen tree, George set up a new position. He carefully adjusted his scope, scanning for targets from a fresh vantage point, always adapting to the changing battlefield. Now he extended his engagement distances to nearly 300 yards, pushing the limits of his rifle and his own skill. Each shot was a test of patience, precision, and nerve. By the end of the second day, George's single rifle had neutralized more enemy combatants than entire heavy weapons platoons operating blindly in the same unforgiving terrain. His discipline, patience, and tactical brilliance had dismantled an entire sniper network, one shot, one decision at a time. The final encounter on Guadalcanal would prove once and for all that what happened here was not just a matter of luck or chance. It was the result of skill, patience, and a deep understanding of the deadly chess game that snipers played in the Pacific jungle. By the third day, the remaining enemy snipers, desperate to turn the tide, resorted to deception. They knew George was out there somewhere, watching and waiting. So they devised a plan, one that had worked on less disciplined marksmen before. They carefully placed a decoy, a helmet and uniform, low in a palm tree, making it look like a careless sniper had exposed himself. The decoy was meant to be irresistible, a perfect target for anyone eager to end the standoff. The goal was simple: bait George into firing at the decoy, then pinpoint his muzzle flash or the sound of his shot. But George was no ordinary sniper. He recognized the trap immediately and refused to take the shot, no matter how tempting it seemed. Instead, he waited. For 11 tense minutes, George watched the decoy, barely moving, his eyes scanning the surrounding trees and undergrowth for any sign of movement. He knew the real threat was not the decoy, but the sniper who was watching it, waiting for him to make a mistake. When he finally spotted the faintest glint of a scope and the subtle shift of a leaf, George acted. He fired first at the decoy, drawing out the hidden enemy, then immediately shifted his aim and took out the real sniper. It was a display of nerves, discipline, and tactical brilliance. 2 shots rang out in quick succession. 2 enemies fell. In less than a minute, George had neutralized both the decoy and the sniper who set the trap. But the danger wasn't over. As American infantry advanced to secure the area, enemy soldiers began searching the jungle, determined to find the sniper who had outwitted them. George knew he couldn't stay put. Escape, George understood, was as much a part of marksmanship as the shot itself. A sniper's job wasn't just to eliminate threats, but to survive and fight another day. He moved quickly and quietly, using every bit of cover the jungle offered. Slipping through the dense undergrowth, wading through muddy streams, and using water for concealment, George demonstrated controlled aggression and tactical withdrawal. He broke contact with the enemy and, against the odds, made it back to friendly lines alive, proving that true mastery is not just about taking the shot, but knowing when and how to disappear. The lessons the army learned from George's actions would echo for generations. At first, few believed one man could make such a difference. But George fired 17 shots in the jungle, under the most intense pressure imaginable. He recorded 14 confirmed kills, no misses. The army, once skeptical, stopped laughing. They realized that skill, discipline, and a new way of thinking could change the course of battle. George's success forced the army to reconsider what it meant to be a sniper, and why that role was so vital. Recognizing his expertise, they asked him to train others. George became more than a marksman. He became a teacher, shaping the next generation of snipers. He taught soldiers to think like hunters, to move with patience and purpose, to blend into their surroundings, and to use every sense to their advantage. He emphasized the importance of waiting for the perfect moment, reading the terrain like a map of opportunity, and respecting the laws of physics that govern every shot. These were lessons in patience, observation, and respect for the craft. After the war, George poured his experiences into his book, Shots Fired in Anger. He wanted others to understand not just what he did, but how he thought and why it mattered. Today, it remains one of the clearest, most insightful first-hand accounts of jungle combat and the psychology of the sniper ever produced. Its lessons are as relevant now as they were then. Equipment matters, of course. The right rifle, the right scope, the right camouflage can make a difference. But understanding the mindset behind the trigger matters even more. Precision is a mindset long before it's a tool. George's legacy is not just in the shots he fired, but in the lessons he left behind. Lessons about patience, discipline, and the power of thinking differently in the face of adversity. If stories like this matter to you, if you want real frontline history stripped of myth and noise, subscribe to Warfare Frontlines and share this episode. These lessons were paid for in blood. They shouldn't be forgotten.